Do you really believe the world owes you something? Do you think that just working hard will make life fair? If your answer is yes, then I have to tell you, you're mistaken. Life isn't fair. The world doesn't care about your effort. And you know what else? Even the people who love you the most might doubt you. But if you're still here, listening to this, it's because there's a spark inside you. And from that spark, the unshakable mind is born. I am Napoleon Hill, and today I'll show you what truly separates the ones who succeed from the ones who break. Are you ready to hear what no one else has had the courage to tell you? Then stay with me until the end, because after this, nothing, absolutely nothing, will be able to shake you. You have absolute control over only one thing, your mind. Nothing else. Not traffic, not opinions, not criticism, not even time. But your mind, that is your sacred territory. And if you master that territory, no one can stop you. Now stop for a moment and think with me. How many times have you allowed the external world to govern your inner world? How many times has a sharp word, a judgmental glance, or a comment on the internet robbed you of your peace for hours? Sometimes even days. That happens because most people live in reactive mode. They don't command their thoughts, they just react, as if they were puppets of their surroundings. But true power is not in reacting. It's in choosing how to think, how to interpret, how to respond. I call that mental authority. It's when you stop being a hostage to your impulses and become the commander of your thoughts. Every fortune, every empire, every real transformation starts here with one mastered idea, one trained mind, one silent decision. Have you realized how many times your life was affected by things that only happened inside your head? How many opportunities have you missed out of fear? How many arguments happened because you interpreted a situation through the lens of your insecurities, not through facts? The unshakable mind is not one that doesn't feel. It's one that doesn't surrender to chaos. It feels the pain, but doesn't despair. It hears the criticism, but doesn't collapse. It's wounded, but still moves forward. I remember a time when I was publicly ridiculed by one of the most influential figures in publishing. He said out loud, in front of an audience, that my ideas were romantic delusions that would never work in the real world. You know what I did? Nothing. I just watched. I stored that moment as fuel for my inner fire. And I kept going. Today, the very words he rejected are changing the lives of millions. That's mental authority. It's being silent while the world screams, because you know exactly where you're going. Now let me ask you, how often have you given away your power to circumstances? Are you still waiting for the world to improve, for people to change, for your boss to recognize your worth, for your partner to support you? I'll tell you something harsh but liberating. That might never happen. And that's okay. Because what changes is not the world. It's the strength of your mind in the face of it. Of course, people will test you. Life will push you. Yes, it will laugh at your pain. But that's the dividing line between those who win and those who quit. Because winners don't hand the steering wheel of their lives to anyone else. They master what's inside and keep going. Even if they're hurt. Even if they're silent. Even if no one believes in them. We live in an age where everyone wants to prove something. Everyone wants to reply, rebut, yell louder. But I tell you, the strongest people I've met were the quietest. They spoke little and thought deeply. They watched while the world panicked. And do you know why? Because a prepared mind doesn't need to explain itself. It acts with clarity and purpose. And you don't need to be born with that kind of control. It's a skill. A conditioning. You train your mind the way a warrior trains the body. One thought at a time. One choice at a time. You decide not to react immediately. You choose to breathe before exploding. You observe. And little by little, what once knocked you down no longer has any effect on you. That is silent strength, and it's worth more than any fleeting motivation. Studies from Stanford University show that people with high levels of mental control have greater emotional resilience and more professional success. Why? Because while others are burning energy on what doesn't matter, they stay focused. They think before they act. They know that the energy of anger doesn't pay the bills, but clarity does. Want a practical example? Let's talk about anxiety. How many people do you know who can't sleep because they're chewing over something that hasn't even happened yet? Then they wake up tired, unproductive, irritable. And the cycle continues. All because the mind is under the wrong control. An unshakable mind says, "This isn't within my control right now, so it won't occupy my mental space." It focuses on what can be done. It acts. It moves forward. Want a practical tip? The next time someone provokes you, at work, in traffic, at home, do the opposite of what's expected. Stay silent. Watch. Feel the anger, yes, but don't feed it. Breathe. And ask yourself, does this reaction bring me closer to or further from the life I want to build? Sounds simple? It is. But it's not easy. It requires practice, vigilance, awareness. But once you learn it, everything changes. You become untouchable to chaos. Remember, you can't control what happens, but you always control what happens inside you. And once that happens, nothing can shake you again. You may have the best plans in the world. You might write goals on colorful paper, stick quotes around the house, make New Year's resolutions with tears in your eyes. But without self-discipline, all of that becomes decoration. Don't fool yourself. The thing that separates a dream from reality is action. And what sustains action when motivation disappears is discipline. I'm not talking about a mystical, innate force like some like to believe. I'm talking about habit, about training, about a decision repeated, even when your body asks for rest, even when the world pushes you to quit. Because impulse is temporary. Desire wavers. But self-discipline shapes who you become. How many times have you started something with excitement only to give up at the first obstacle? How many projects, diets, study plans, and relationships have you abandoned simply because you expected to feel motivated all the time? Here's the truth no one tells you. Motivation will leave you, and you'll have to keep going anyway. Self-discipline is invisible, but it's what builds everything. It's what gets you out of bed when the alarm rings and your mind begs for 10 more minutes. It's what holds you back when someone offends you and you want to explode. It's what keeps you working while no one applauds, studying while others sleep, and persisting even when it feels like nothing is changing. I've called it the bridge between thought and realization, because that's exactly what it is. What connects what you desire to what you actually live? Have you noticed how people today are always looking for shortcuts? Quick formulas? Miracle diets? Investments with immediate returns? But look, everything solid takes time to build. Everything valuable requires consistency. And that's only possible when you stop acting based on how you feel and start acting based on what you decided. I remember a tough period when I wrote in the early hours, exhausted, with an empty stomach and bills piling up. My wife, worried, would ask if it wasn't time to find a safer, more stable job. But there was something inside me that wouldn't let me stop. I knew that if I kept going, if I persisted, that invisible bridge I was crossing would lead me to a different place. And it took years, yes, years, without recognition, without return. But I made it. I made it because I was consistent, even in the absence of guarantees. And here's a point you need to understand. The world will not reward you immediately. In fact, it will test your patience. It will test your faith. It will laugh at your silent effort. But that's okay, because you don't need the world's permission to keep going. You need discipline. How many times have you justified your mistakes with phrases like, "That's just how I am." Or, "It was stronger than me." Let me tell you, nothing is stronger than a determined mind. It's not your temperament that defines you, it's your patterns. And patterns can be changed, replaced, redesigned, if you're brave enough to get out of autopilot. And that kind of bravery is rare. Because living with discipline means going against the current. It means denying immediate pleasures. It means refusing invitations that delay your mission. It means saying no, even when everyone else says yes. But here's the secret. When you choose to live this way, you're not losing, you're gaining time, energy, focus. You're building something others can't even see yet. Today, with all the access to information, networks, courses, and content, do you really think knowledge is what's lacking? It's not. What's lacking is consistency. And without it, everything becomes useless consumption. You feel productive watching videos, saving inspirational quotes, but nothing changes. Because without discipline, knowledge doesn't become wisdom. It becomes clutter. Look, studies from Harvard University show that self-discipline has a greater impact on long-term success than IQ itself. In other words, disciplined people outperform the talented as long as they stay on course. That's why so many geniuses fall off track. Because talent without practice is worthless. Want a real-life example? Think of Elon Musk. Surrounded by controversy, criticism, emotional breakdowns. Yet have you noticed that even when everything seems to collapse, he keeps building? That's not luck. That's a pattern. And behind that pattern is discipline. Now think of someone like Lindsay Lohan. She shined. She had charisma, talent, fame. But she lacked the invisible foundation. She lacked structure. She lacked discipline. And what once looked promising turned into public ruin. Not because she lacked talent, but because she lacked direction. Now look at your life. How many times did you start well and quit because you didn't see fast results? How many times did you say, "This isn't for me," when in reality, you just needed to push a little harder? So here's a challenge for you. Choose one small action, just one, that you know brings you closer to your best version. And practice it for 21 days. No skipping. No excuses. No justifications. It could be waking up earlier, studying for 30 minutes a day, going for a walk. But stick with it. You'll realize that after a few repetitions, what once felt like effort becomes a lifestyle. The mind adjusts. The body responds. And you start to trust yourself like never before. Because deep down, discipline isn't about sacrifice. It's about freedom. The freedom to be who you choose to be, not who the world pushes you to be. Yes, you will get tired. Yes, you will doubt. But keep going anyway. Because it's exactly there, at the breaking point, where transformation begins. And when you least expect it, you'll look back and realize you are no longer the same person. You've become someone who acts even without motivation, who decides even without certainty, who continues even without applause. And that, no one can take from you. We live in an age where everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to reply. Everyone wants to prove something. Social media has become a showcase of screams disguised as opinion. But the real giants, they walk in silence. They observe. They calculate. And when they act, no one understands where such strength came from. Funny, isn't it? It seems the louder someone shouts, the less true strength they have. Because silence, my friend, is strength. It's mental armor. It's a strategic choice. And I assure you, whoever masters their own silence masters their own destiny. Have you noticed how uncomfortable people get when you don't respond? When you simply stay silent in the face of provocations, criticisms, unjust judgments? Most people react, justify, dive into useless arguments that only drain their energy. But the one who chooses silence, That one intimidates. Because they're in control. They don't need to prove anything. They know who they are. And that is enough. True silence is not the absence of a response. It is the presence of control, of clarity, of emotional intelligence. Once, an influential editor in New York accused me of plagiarism in the middle of a literary circle. He distorted parts of my work, insinuating that my ideas were recycled. All of this in front of powerful men. I could have responded. I had arguments. But I chose to say nothing. I remained seated, looking into his eyes. That silence was more eloquent than any defense. Months later, that same man sent me a letter, admitting he had been hasty and asking for forgiveness. When the world is forced into silence, it reveals its true intentions. Do you want to be strong? Then learn to observe. Breathe before you act. Stop explaining yourself all the time, because constant explanation feeds insecurity. And your confidence must come from within. An unshakable mind doesn't waste time on conversations that lead nowhere. It doesn't engage in disputes that offer no progress. It understands that every word you speak is energy leaving you. And the question is, what are you fueling with that energy? How many times have you felt the urge to respond to unfair criticism, to gossip, to provocation? How many times have you tried to fix how someone sees you, to explain you're not what they say you are? And what did that bring you? Peace or more exhaustion? Being calm is not weakness. Being calm is being strategic. It's knowing that the most important battles aren't won with shouting, but with focus, with clarity, with emotional intelligence. Most people still behave as if they're in a schoolyard, needing to shout louder so they don't seem inferior. But the man who knows who he is doesn't need to shout. He simply walks. Studies show that people who intentionally cultivate silence enjoy better mental health, sharper cognitive clarity, and make better decisions under pressure. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of awareness. Today, we are surrounded by noise. News, notifications, unsolicited opinions. And what does that generate? Anxiety, hurry, reactivity. But silence is the remedy. It reconnects you. It reminds you that you don't need to have an opinion about everything, respond to everything, convince everyone. You are not here to please. You are here to accomplish. Look at Keanu Reeves, for example. A man who faced personal tragedies, was mocked by the press, suffered unimaginable losses, and yet he endured. Silent, steady, generous. Today, he is loved and respected not for what he says, but for what he represents. Because the world recognizes the strength of those who don't need to show off. On the other hand, notice those who shout the most. They are often hiding unhealed wounds, insecurities, emotional voids. And shouting is a desperate attempt to be seen, to be validated. But when you know yourself, when you trust your path, you don't need to be seen. You just need to move forward. And here lies a key few dare to turn. You don't need to explain yourself to be respected. True respect comes from posture, from consistency, from coherence. While many live to maintain an image, the strong live to maintain a purpose. And that purpose speaks loudly, even in silence. You don't need to respond to every criticism. You don't need to correct every lie. You don't need to justify every choice. Because while you are trying to be understood, you are moving away from what you came here to do. Those who try to please everyone end up pleasing no one, not even themselves. So I invite you now to try a simple, yet powerful exercise. The next time someone tries to provoke you, instead of responding, just observe. Breathe. Smile inside. And say to yourself, I am bigger than this. This is not weakness. This is self-mastery. This is maturity. This is power. Think about everything you could accomplish if you didn't waste so much energy explaining yourself. If you channel that force into creating, evolving, executing, silence is the field where the great plant their projects. It's where focus is born, where clarity emerges, where empires are planned. Remember, those who shout the most hide the most. The weak attack what they do not understand. And you, when you choose not to react, when you choose silence, you become a mirror. A mirror that reflects to others everything they lack the courage to be. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to inspire. And sometimes, the greatest impact you can have on the world is the silence of your firmness. There comes a moment in life when everything seems dark. The paths blur, your strength runs out, and you start to wonder if it's worth continuing. It's in that silent moment of deep exhaustion that most people give up. But it's exactly there where the great ones begin to win. Because it's not motivation that sustains the journey, it's purpose. What I call defined purpose is not just a pretty sentence in a goals notebook. It's a fire. An internal drive that burns fear, pierces through doubt, and turns every fall into fuel. It's a conviction so clear about why you are here that even when no one believes, you keep going. Even when everything seems against you, you persist. Because you know, either you live for something, or you get distracted by anything. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Smart, talented, well-meaning people, but empty inside. People who tried to find motivation in videos, in quotes, in applause, and who lived in cycles of frustration. Because without purpose, you tire quickly. You get discouraged easily. You accept any shortcut, any excuse, any distraction. Have you ever felt like you're always busy, but nothing really moves forward? Like you're running in circles, going nowhere? That happens because you're not acting with direction. You're just reacting to whatever the world throws at you. But when you define your purpose, you start saying no more easily. You stop wasting time on things that don't bring you closer. You filter. You focus. You become selective with your time, your energy, your words. And no, it won't be easy. You will be judged. You will be misunderstood. They will call you cold, arrogant, obsessive. But understand this, the world always resists what it cannot control. When you begin to move with a firm purpose, you become unpredictable. And that bothers those who live on autopilot. I still remember the time when I was finishing Think and Grow Rich. I was deep in debt, exhausted, and had no guarantee that anyone would care about those pages. A businessman offered me a stable job, with security, a decent salary, and comfort. For a moment, that offer shone like a way out. I could have accepted and stopped suffering. But something inside me shouted louder. I knew that if I gave in at that moment, I wouldn't just be abandoning the book. I would be abandoning my mission. So I chose to keep going. I chose the discomfort of purpose over the comfort of quitting. And that decision changed everything. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need the courage to take the next step, with the faith that something will open up ahead. If it doesn't open today, it will open tomorrow. And if it doesn't open tomorrow, you dig. Because those with purpose don't wait for luck. They build. Gallup research shows that people with a clear purpose are nearly twice as likely to feel fulfilled professionally and emotionally. Because purpose isn't just direction, it's emotional fuel. It's what gets you out of bed even when everything hurts. It's what holds you when the ground disappears beneath your feet. It's what turns you into someone who doesn't stop, even when no one else believes. How many times have you thought of giving up because no one supported you? How many times have you looked around and seen everyone taking easy, short paths and wondered if you were foolish for holding on so tightly? But listen, if your heart is still beating for this mission, it's because it's yours. It was given to you, not to them. And they won't understand. And that's okay. You don't need to be understood. You need to be faithful to your truth. While others relax, you adjust your course. While they complain, you take action. While they doubt, you believe. Not because everything is clear, but because inside you there's a certainty no one can touch. Look at Oprah Winfrey's story. A victim of abuse, rejection, extreme poverty. Everything said she had no chance. But there was a voice inside her that said, "You were born for something greater." And that voice never went silent. Even when everything was falling apart, she heard it, and she followed it. And today she inspires millions, not because she was accepted, but because she was determined. Maybe you're in the dark right now. Maybe no one sees your effort. Maybe even you are starting to doubt. But listen, what you are planting in silence is already taking root. And when those roots are deep enough, nothing will knock you down. That obsession the world criticizes is exactly what creates legends. When your purpose becomes part of who you are, you stop acting out of obligation. You start living for it. And everything that once felt like a sacrifice becomes a way of life. You start losing interest in distractions. Empty conversations, other people's dramas, gossip, opinions, all of it loses importance. Because you're obsessed with your mission. And that's not exaggeration, it's precision. This kind of mindset is what shapes greatness. You've already fallen. You've cried in secret. You kept going while everyone else stopped. People have doubted you. And still, you kept walking. That makes you different. That makes you rare. And it's that rarity that builds respect. The truth is, in the end, the world bows to those who didn't stop. The ones who laughed, applaud. The ones who doubted, learn. And the ones who ignored you are forced to acknowledge you. Maybe you don't see it yet. Maybe it's still hard. But you are closer than you think. Closer than you feel. The finish line never announces it's near. It just shows up, for those who didn't give up. And when it shows up, you'll understand that everything started back there. In that moment when no one saw, no one believed, no one understood, and you kept going anyway. Keep going. Because the world might ignore your words, but it can never ignore your results. The most important point in everything you've heard so far is simple, yet powerful. When you master your mind, you master your destiny. No criticism, no doubt, no storm holds real power over someone who knows their purpose, controls their impulses, and moves forward even in silence. You don't need to prove yourself. You just need to continue, with determination, with clarity, with discipline. Because life doesn't reward those who shout, but those who persist quietly until the world can no longer ignore them. And if this truth has touched you even a little, imagine what awaits you in your next step. The next video that's appearing on your screen will help you climb one more step in this ladder of transformation. One more step in your evolution. Just 1% better than you are now. And that, my friend, is enough to change everything. Thank you for walking with me this far. I'll see you in the next video. Let's keep growing together.